What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Payne. Welcome back to another Final Fantasy VII Rebirth video. That's right, done the damn game. All right, I have a lot I want to talk about here. I'm just going to give you a review. I'll make this as spoiler-free as possible. And you guys can see here I've put in, 55 hours now? Granted, I haven't done 100% for everything. I just want to make that clear. I got up to Costa del Sol, did 100% on the Grasslands, Junon, and then I decided, you know what? I need to see how this all plays out. And wow, what a ride. So let's talk about what makes this game special. All right, and again, I'm going to try to make this as spoiler-free as I possibly can. They've done something so remarkable here, in my opinion, and that is retake the original story and what happened in Remake and Integrate and just further the plot even more. Now, there were times where things were confusing. There were times where you're at the seat of your pants and you're like, what the hell is going on? But for the most part, things are explained as the game progresses. And I think they've done a fantastic job doing that. All right, so combat. Here's the thing with combat. I love the combat. I think it was a little bit of an improvement from Remake. It wasn't as, here's my biggest issue, I think, is it wasn't as smooth as Remake. And I think my biggest problem with the combat was the fact that they convoluted a lot of it with dual attacks, synchronized attacks, etc., which was a good addition to the game. I just wasn't a big fan of it. I feel like it didn't bring enough to the fights to matter. Like, yes, they were cool. Yes, some of them raised your ATB. Yes, some of them obviously did more stagger, limit break increase, unlimited MP, etc. They were all cool additions, but I don't think it was a necessary addition to the game, and I don't think it brought enough depth to the combat, which was already a really deep system as it was. When it comes down to the actual fights, my hardest unit to use for some odd reason was Aerith. Again, might be the fact that I wasn't a big fan of her in the first place, and I didn't like. I still to this day I don't like the vengeance mode for Red 13, but that's also just not being accustomed to the character and trying to stick to my usual three, which was Tifa, Barret, and Cloud, and those three were fantastic, like remarkable combat for those three. I especially like Cloud's, obviously, because of the ability to parry, using the two different Punisher modes and regular operator mode. Both of those felt good. There was no bugs. There seemed to be no lag between combat. Parrying was on par. Everything seemed to just flow like really, really well. So from a combat perspective, I think they've done a really good job improving it. But again, I just didn't feel the same impact that a lot of you guys might have felt with the synchronized attacks. Limit breaks I did love. They're very similar to what they were last game with a couple extra additions, obviously. And I have to admit, Kate Sith's combat was actually a lot of fun. Being able to summon the Moogle, and do special skills with the Moogle out was kind of a cool, refreshing change of pace. So combat-wise, they did a really good job. Now, let's go on to the characters. The characters, I think, are clearly the stars here. And I want to talk about the characters and what each one represents in this game and how they fleshed each one out. And I think it goes without saying that Barret is the heart of this game. I think majority of us who have played this game or completed this game or have even started playing it in general can see how Barret, who was the most typical character in the OG version, was given a personality in Remake and everybody started to love him. But in this game, in Rebirth, he's on a whole other level. Every single line, every single scene, every time he's in a battle, his one-liners, his combat, everything. I think Barret literally is the heart of the game. I don't think there's a character in this game that has gone through as much from an emotional perspective as him. I know Cloud goes through a lot. I know Tifa goes through a lot. Aerith obviously goes through a lot. But I think Barret's acting and his lines and just the scenes with him in it really outshine everybody else's. So I think Barret is literally my favorite character in Final Fantasy VII right now, with the way they've made him, right? So I think he's definitely the heart. Tifa, I think, is the stability. I think without Tifa, Cloud would be absolutely lost. And what's one of those things where they do such a good job of making her selfless. Like, yes, she wants obviously for Cloud to recognize her. Yes, she wants to tell Cloud everything. She knows that he doesn't, but she can see the instability, right? She can see the heart-wrenching issues that Cloud goes through, not knowing who he is, and the past events that she knows about, like the real past events, right? And it's really cool seeing that character come to life, and it just really shows her heart. I think being the selfless character fits her so well, and at the same time, it makes you wonder even more why the hell Cloud just can't just be with this girl. Like, why you got to get Aerith involved? And speaking of Aerith, and this is, I think this is probably the second most impressive character to me. And the reason why is I if you know anything about me from Final Fantasy VII OG, Aerith was my most hated character. I could not stand her. Okay, in Remake, they did a better job. I was like, okay, like you can kind of see she's witty, she's charming, she's got a little bit going for her. But I think in Rebirth, again, they upped the ante with her as well, too, by giving her a lot more genuineness with who she was. She wasn't just all about, like, dancing around, all about flowers and, trying to have Cloud protect her. She really wanted to be a protector herself. And I think this is how Aerith's character grows on people, right? You can kind of see that she does make the ultimate sacrifice, knowing that really she can't escape her fate. But she does her best to guide everyone the right way. And I think the voice acting behind Aerith as well, with all the emotion she poured, plus all of the back and forth between her, Cloud, and her friendship with Tifa was really heartwarming as well, too. So I think Aerith, they did an amazing job with Aerith. And again, ultimate sacrifice, right? And when it comes down to it, you can see she's the bravest of the bunch. There's nobody braver than Aerith. Nobody. And I think that's where they really, really emphasized her personality, was her bravery, her courage. I don't think there's anybody out there who has that same level of courage as she does, knowing that no matter how she does this, things always end up being the same, but it's for the better good. And there requires a big sacrifice for that to happen, right? So hopefully that's not, I don't think that's a spoiler. I don't think, right? I hope not. Now let's go over to Nanaki. Nanaki, I have to say I wasn't very impressed with Nanaki. I think I expected a lot more. Now, a lot of people were a little bit upset with a certain aspect of his character, which I won't mention. Again, I don't want to make a spoiler. I want to make it spoiler-free as possible. I think the biggest problem I had with Nanaki was the fact that he played a very small role in the whole scheme of things. Like when it comes down to the party itself, like any side quests you did with him, he was just kind of like growling at people because they would all call him a dog. And again, it's not the character's fault, it's the writing, right? Also, I think the fact that outside of Cosmo Canyon, he really didn't have a big part to play in the party succession. Even, in my opinion, even Yuffie had a bigger part to play. That's, again, just my opinion on it, right? And speaking of Yuffie, I know a lot of people hate her. They think she's a brat. You're absolutely right. She is a brat. But I think, and I said this in my Discord, I think Yuffie's character is so unique in a sense that she's a 16-year-old girl who has her whole country taken over by Shinra with military might, is forced to grow up as a ninja, which right away that itself is showing how hard that life must be, and then uses jokes and being annoying as a way to cope. Like, a lot of people think she's just an annoying brat, but I see what they're trying to do with her. Unfortunately, the Japanese, the writers are not the greatest at writing females. They've all come out and said this already, I believe. And I think Yuffie's one of the better written characters only because you can kind of see, like, when you see scenes of her, thinking about her country or thinking about her people and the suffering, you can kind of see that joking side kind of die down and the seriousness come out. And it's pain. It's nothing but pain and anger that is within her. But she tries her best to show her, her wittiness and her jokes along the way. Her and Barrett's relationship is incredible. I think it's one of the best things in the game. And I every time they were together, I was just a hoot. It was like a hoot to watch, like for me personally. Okay, so that's Yuffie in itself. Cait Sith. Listen, I've never been a fan of Cait Sith as a character in the OG versions. I'm not a fan of Cait Sith in this version. I thought Cait Sith was annoying. Played out exactly how you expect it to play it out with that character, but I wasn't a fan of the voice actor. I wasn't not to say the voice actor was bad, but just the accent. Didn't fit Cait Sith for some reason. I knew what it was going to be because I remember seeing it, obviously. But yeah, it was just an annoying character. But I think that just kind of comes with the territory of not liking Cait Sith from the get-go. I didn't expect much, so really not much good things to say about that. Who am I missing here? We'll talk about Cloud at the end. Let's go with Sid. Sid was unique. Was a good take on him. It wasn't the version of Sid that we're all used to, especially if those who played the original game. This was a different Sid. This is actually a Sid that Sid is a little bit more mellowed out, a little bit more, I guess chill and calm, which is very important because the Sid we know is the complete opposite of that Sid. So it was interesting to see a different side of this character, which I actually did enjoy. It was nice. Plus the relationship he had with a certain character because of their past was also interesting to know about too. And not to mention, obviously you get to learn a little bit about his his involvement with Shinra and what, you know, being a pilot means to him. So that, I think they did a really good job. So actually, I'm looking forward to using him as a character in the third version. Vincent was really cool. Incredible introduction, amazing battle sequence. I kind of wish we just had more. Just Vincent's one of the most badass characters in Final Fantasy VII. So the little bit that we did have, I think, was incredible. I think it did him justice. And he proves to still be one of the best Final Fantasy VII off-cast characters, period. I think he's one of the most popular, right? So he definitely leaves his mark in Rebirth, and I think that's important. Who do we have left? I think Cloud? Yeah, I mean, Cloud is Cloud. Cloud just continues to grow as a character, but you kind of do see the influence of Sephiroth a lot more in this, which is expected because that's just the progression of the story, right? Obviously, he and Zack, and I'll talk about he and Zack together, Zack are the complete polar opposites of one another, which I think was an incredible dynamic to have in this game. To see Cloud's, growth as a person and as somebody who actually has friends and somebody who accepts that people are there to support him and love him. And then you see the complete opposite of Zack, where he just goes into this world where everything is completely topsy-turvy for him and upside down, and yet his radiance, his love, his happiness, his cheerfulness just, outshines that, which I think is so cool to see the two of them being in the same game alive and being able to witness the difference in personalities and how you can kind of see a little bit of Zack in Cloud and you can kind of see a little bit of Cloud in Zack. But yeah, I think those two characters had a lot of growth, specifically Zack. I think Zack was incredibly well written, even though he had limited time. Biggs was in it a bit as well too. I didn't like his whole spiel about what he went through. I thought they could have done a better job writing him. But it is what it is. We'll talk again more about that later. We'll stop talking about the smaller cast. Sephiroth. Here's the thing with Sephiroth, right? I'm not going to talk about Rufus and the Turks and all those guys. You guys can experience that yourself. Although I do say I think Rufus was well written almost throughout the entire thing, and Hojo was just a psychopath anyways. But Sephiroth was, I think, one of the pieces that I wish they had more of. Now, this game really did focus on a lot more of the world of Final Fantasy. It did focus more a lot about the other characters and the side characters like the Turks. Sephiroth seemed like a shell of himself in this game. He was more just like a means to an end, where I feel like in Remake, he had a lot more impact with his presence. So even though I love and I'm obsessed with Sephiroth, he's my favorite character of any Final Fantasy game ever, I feel like they could have just done a better job having him in the game make a bigger impact throughout it, okay? So that's my take on the characters. Overall, though, the game, absolute masterpiece. There's one complaint I have, and it's a very minor complaint, is that every world quest is the same practically across the board when it comes down to activating sensor towers and then finding fiends to fight. That kind of gets stale and boring after a while. That's my only real complaint. I wish they kind of made it a little more dynamic, a little bit more diverse. But outside of that, it's an absolute masterpiece, and I would easily say this is going to be Game of the Year as of right now, at least. It is early in the year, but I just don't see anything else for me personally that's going to top this anytime soon in the next few years. If you are a Final Fantasy VII fan, I highly recommend giving this game a go. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Even if you are not a fan and you just want to know about the story, I would recommend taking a look at it. Non-spoiler, obviously with spoilers, so you guys can get the full picture and understand why the devs of this game deserve all the praise. They have created a masterpiece, and I cannot wait. I don't know how long it's going to take for the next and last copy of this game to come out, which is part 3. All right, guys, this is Payne. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Take care.